Hey everyone, it's Endymion, and there's been even more coping updates when it comes to Marvel Rivals and the jealousy that is seething from the usual types when it comes to games doing well. Beyond this, I want to also go look at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, as its creative director is being attacked yet again by the same kind of weirdos. Firstly, Marvel Rivals is absolutely killing it with its initial release. NetEase has announced that the game has already reached 10 million players across all platforms, which is absolutely insane, but not at all surprising to me. The game has everything that it pretty much needs to stand firmly where it needs to against its competition. I ended up playing the game till like 2 AM the other night, which for someone like me, that's not normal, and yeah, I'm paying the price for it. I got a headache and my eyeballs feel more tired than usual, but I've been getting that itch, so to speak, from Rivals, where I think of going to bed and then go, maybe just one more game, and then of course it turns into 4 more. So yeah, I'm tired, fellas. Of course, this massive success is being downplayed by many, claiming that Rivals is only succeeding because it's free to play, which is a moronic pushback against its own accomplishments. Listen, I've talked to people who work on live service development games. The likelihood of success for these sorts of projects is next to nothing for most of them. Plenty of live service games come and go like crazy. X-Defiant's a great example. It's dead, by the way, if you didn't know. And for every 10 live service failures, maybe one actually ends up delivering enough to sustain itself in the future. Rivals, of course, has all the bells and whistles to survive. It may be a little too early to celebrate, but I mean, it's Overwatch with Marvel heroes. It's got every advantage in the book right now. Of course, friend of the channel Grums decided to kick the hornet's nest, which at this point is expected. And I love him for it, because it's always hilarious when it happens. He said this to Rivals hitting 10 million. Western devs, the games market is terrible right now. Nobody is buying games because of the economy. Of course, as you would expect, all the usual suspects came out of the woods to attack Grums, claiming that his statement was unfounded because Rivals is free to play. As one user said in response, the game is free. And then another said, Rivals is proof that people are still buying games, but Marvel Rivals is free. But is it really free? Think super hard about it. Yes, it really is free. Nobody bought the game. This so-called gacha is what you're going to be hearing a lot for the next few days at least. Rivals didn't succeed in the normal way because it's free, so of course it would hit 10 million players, even though games like Concord in their beta couldn't even reach 2,000 players during its public free beta that was available before it came out. The point here is that just because your game is free to play does not mean it will succeed instantly at all. In fact, like I said before, free-to-play has a much wider space of error compared to the typical paid-for products. Free-to-play games need to make money. They obviously do this through microtransactions, we all know this. And the servers that these games work on aren't just magical free internet machines that require nothing to upkeep. If anything, free-to-play games are way more costly and risky to release than a paid-for product, especially these days. As Grums replied to someone, free-to-play games often create 10 times the revenue of paid games when they are successful. Is it really free? Stop being a disingenuous idiot. He's right, by the way. Free-to-play is like that one job class in a game that is a glass cannon with a very high-risk reward build. I made a video a while back during the whole blowout of Assassin's Creed Shadows insider info that I was showing, where I spoke to a developer who worked at Ubisoft but was situated within China. They told me that pretty much most of the revenue made by free-to-play games is relegated to the top 1 or 2% of games within that entire genre. A gross amount of revenue is hoarded by stuff like Fortnite as a good example of this. So the fact people are trying to downplay Rivals, saying its success is obvious and we shouldn't celebrate it or look to it as a victory, it's stupid to me. The game was a risk, like anything that gets made. You shouldn't just shrug your shoulders when a game hits 10 million players in a few days. That's genuinely insane to manage. Especially because, as Grums once said, and this Chinese dev that I talked to as well, a lot of these companies are understandably highly competitive, and the sobering truth is that there is a finite amount of players out there right now already. And all of these game studios and their games are fighting for what is pretty much scraps from one another to keep themselves alive. Most players find their game and then they settle in for good. I'm sure there's people watching this right now that are heavily invested into solely Fortnite or Warzone or something like Apex even. And the truth of the matter is that most people, once they become accustomed to something like that, they latch onto it and then stick with it and then that's it. Which is great for the players, sure, but it's terrible for new potential competition out there, whether it's a new free-to-play game, or something you need to pay to buy into like Concord tried and failed. These companies are effectively in a stalemate ever-war for your attention and money over each other every single second of every single day. The fact that Rivals was able to reach what it did is a massive success. I need people to understand that. Just because it's free to play doesn't mean its success isn't warranted. After all, as Esports says here in their article, Overwatch 2 hits lowest player count on Steam following Marvel Rivals release. This is exactly what I mean when I say that there is a finite amount of players out there and these companies are all fighting each other for your attention. But anyway, Rivals is eating Overwatch's lunch right now. Players have mass exodused over to Rivals, of course, because it is also free to play, but I think it's for another primary reason, because the game is clearly devoid of any identity politics. Like I said in my previous video, Overwatch is full to the brim with this nonsense already. It probably doesn't help that currently on Steam, Overwatch 2 has a mostly negative response as well. Which doesn't really surprise me, since that game has fallen over the years from its mammoth-like status to what it is right now. I think Overwatch 2 is a great example of what activists do when they enter popular franchises. You go from having something that was amazing with resounding praise, Game of the Year wins, and entire leagues being born to support your game, to a skeleton of what it is now. The thing about live service games is they can pretty much change their trajectory immediately within a single day, even if things aren't going well. Gaming, as we all know, has never been more volatile than it is right now, whether it's some dev saying something stupid and then derailing years of work, like Avowed's art director, or having anything controversial happen to your game prior to release. Plus, like Grums even said, free-to-play games, when they are on fire, make far more money than literally anything else does in comparison, and it's not even remotely close. There's a reason why live service games are being targeted and created by places like PlayStation, because I guarantee you they've made more money on Helldivers 2 than God of War Ragnarok easily. Because of those goddamn microtransactions. EA, for example, too, makes the bulk of their money from those in-game purchases within their yearly sports games than anything else as well. You want to know why these companies chase these things? Because everybody and their grandma wants their own Genshin Impact-like franchises. Like, look at this, guys. From PocketGamer.com, Genshin Impact is the fastest ever game to reach $5 billion in consumer spend. To put this into perspective, Genshin Impact has made more money than multiples of Sony's first-party franchises in terms of revenue by itself in just 4 years since release. Like, the stats here are nuts. $1.5 billion in revenue was generated from Genshin Impact in China alone, around $1 billion after that in Japan, and then $908 million in North America. These three places in the world total around 70% of Genshin's total revenue, with, of course, multiple countries making up the rest of it. To show you how insanely fast Genshin reached this $5 billion in revenue mark, here's a handy graph for you to look at. The numbers show how many months it took each game franchise listed here to reach the same $5 billion mark. So Genshin reached it in 40 months, while Roblox took 135 months to reach the same benchmark. So circling back, remember when Grum said that live service games overwhelmingly make for the majority of consumer spending in gaming? Well, yeah, he's right, guys. So when you look at Marvel Rivals and see that it's free to play and people scoff going 10 million players, yeah, sure, but it costs nothing, you're being stupid on purpose. It's an analytical-based miracle of wonder that Rivals was able to garner that many players this quickly, because, like I said, it's near impossible these days to get people to leave their preferred game for another in this industry. Try telling some kid who plays Fortnite all the time, hey, you should stop playing Fortnite and check out this other game. Even worse if the game has a price tag attached to it. The likelihood of them dropping the game they obsess over is next to nothing. You'd have more luck winning a fistfight with the lion than changing those kids' minds. So whenever you hear someone say, well, free-to-play players are pointless, I want you to know that these are people who are just outing themselves as confirming that they have no idea what they're talking about at all. It's like saying that a video on YouTube hit 10 million views in 3 days and people go, well, duh, YouTube is free. Not realizing how lucky that video had to be to get there in the first place. The amount of perfect things that needed to happen to create the opportunity for that video to get to that level so quickly. We're talking the algorithm, the title, the thumbnail, the topic, the off chance certain people catch wind of that video. All of these factors, each a 1 in a million chance, all happening simultaneously, resulting in what happens. That's what it means when games reach numbers like this too. Don't downplay these things. You should celebrate them instead. Infinity Nikki is another free-to-play game recently that also hit 10 million, which for a game like that is absolutely insane as well. Good for them, by the way. But do I have a problem with live service games? Yes, to an extent, I can't lie. I don't like that so many companies are chasing them because it limits the other things that they're making. I personally love single-player RPGs, but the reality is that only a select few single-player RPGs will actually reach billions in profits. And those anomalies, they only really happen once every few years if we're lucky, maybe a decade. Take for example Skyrim in 2011, and then you had Witcher 3 in 2015, so 4 years later. And then the next big game that was a single player RPG to reach that level wasn't really until 2022 when Elden Ring released. People really need to realize that these big numbers don't just happen. So much needs to go right for these things to get to that point. And these sorts of games, your free-to-play ones, always have a hard time winning people over. I mean, thegamer.com back in August 2024 had their article titled, "The longer I play Marvel Rivals, the worse it gets." The Gamer claimed even back then that abilities are flashy and impactful and the destructible environments add a lot to the superhero fantasy. I can see why people have been so taken by this game during the beta, and at first I was too. But when you really put Rivals through its paces, it doesn't have what it takes to hook people long term the way Overwatch did. There are a lot of little things that add up to make Rivals feel unpolished and half-baked. Hit registration, the most important, and foundational UI function in any shooter is weirdly inconsistent and wholly unsatisfying. Important information on the HUD isn't given visual priority, forcing you to spend valuable milliseconds searching for information when you should be focusing on the fight, and focusing is a major challenge in Rival thanks to visual clutter. While it can be fun to see your screen fill up with particle effects and flashing lights, from a competitive standpoint, it makes the game's state unintelligible, which is something that will hurt Rival's player retention long term. You see what I mean? These games need to jump through a million hoops from betas, journalists, and more before they even get a chance at said success. I mean, of course the Gamer not liking Marvel Rivals doesn't really surprise me, considering they're a website that champions leftist ideology openly pretty much all of the time. And one look at Rivals women tells you everything that you kinda need to know about their agenda, which is that they're really not interested in implementing trans characters, for example, or feminine women. Every woman looks like a real woman. Every man looks like an actual superhero, which I mean makes sense considering, it's a game full of them. And before people say, well, it's Marvel, of course it would succeed. Oh, really? You mean how the Avengers, which was also live service, died and has already been delisted? Or how Marvel's Midnight Suns didn't sell well at all, despite it having pretty much all the same characters as Rivals does? But those games were paid for. Rivals isn't. They're still video games at the end of the day using the same property. Nothing in this world is promised success. There's way too many factors before a single dollar starts rolling in, and clearly not enough people are realizing this. Even Stacey Henley of The Gamer, a trans writer, claims that Concord dying is unfortunate, yet Rivals succeeding even in early access is simply because it's Marvel. But again, like I showed you, just being Marvel doesn't mean automatic success, but Stacey still claims all these games will die anyways. But The Gamer is out of touch, like always, where they say, on some level, the very existence of these games makes me a little angry. I don't think these are the sorts of games that inspire developers, and they tend to come about via a top-down mandate to hit key demographics aimed at generating steady cash flow. These are not words I enjoy being associated with art, even if I concede that gaming is a business. But live service shooters in particular seem so transparent in trying to be like every other game out there that you have to wonder what the point of any of it is. The point is that if you were able to secure that top 1 or 2% of live service game royalty real estate, you end up making more money than God has, pretty much is the point. Of course, it doesn't surprise me that Stacey Henley isn't crazy about Rivals, because Rivals actually depicts the characters the way they look in the comics and keeps their bodies looking athletically built and strong. But the point here is that, like I'm showing you, there's a lot of pushback against Rivals' success, both during its pre-release and its launch. Even players of the leftist socialist crowd don't like Rivals. Why, you may be asking? It's appealing to people who like hot women too much, apparently. In my last video, I showed this post but didn't really look too much into it. Now that I have, yeah, these people are simply mad because women are hot in video games again. Like, look at how these people talk about the Rivals designs. Knowing nothing about it beyond this image, I'm not thrilled. I mean, I like ass as much as the next girl, but come on, they all have the He-Man build. All the female characters have ass, and every male character is a triangle. I don't hate the drawn art style, and even a lot of the individual characters are awesome. But damn, they could have gone with a less male-gazy art direction. You see what I mean? When the leftist weirdos aren't attacking your game before launch, claiming that it's going to die and fail like Concord did, you then have socialist weirdos saying that the game is catering to male players far too much instead. And then if you tell them, well, the overwhelming demographic that plays these kinds of games are guys, then they'll just call you sexist too. Like, these comments can't be serious, man. Crazy how in a socialist gaming sub, people are okay with the lack of diversity and male gaze. I can't believe that someone would unironically type this. It's gotta be a troll dude. But then someone else says, people are trying to defend that the men are equally sexualized here. They really don't see the difference between showing fit men and half-naked women in suggestive poses. This is quite disappointing. My god, these people are insufferable. People don't want to play as slobs. They want the idealized look. It's a video game. Like, why do you think Concord died? Because nobody was ever going to be willing one day to buy some bonus outfit for, like, Daw, who's just some fat, I don't know, is he Indian? I have no idea, man. It doesn't matter either way. Daw technically no longer exists since, Concord is dead anyway. But they're mad that a game dare cater to the vast majority of people out there? Oh, the horror. How dare they want to make money and survive for longer than 2 weeks like their Lord and Savior Concord did? Nobody wants fat characters or ugly people in games. It's just crazy how these people refuse to understand things. Like, all year, these kinds of ideas in games have failed resoundingly across the board. Whatever pushes this woke, ugly, pro-leftist agenda always dies. And even in the face of overwhelming loss, they still can't grasp why it keeps happening. This last one here is just beyond stupid. I'm not playing a Marvel game when Marvel just churns literal SHIT out just to get paid. Another horny Overwatch replacement that will likely fail because superhero games are crap and will forever be so. I hate Marvel. Superheroes have been used in USA propaganda for years. And I'm not buying into that or the consumerism of it. Play indie games. Then someone else replies. Because all it takes is fun gameplay for people to break their principles. Oh my god. Dude, these people are delusional. There's no way. What principles are people against because they are enjoying Rivals exactly? Principles against ugly women and gross men? Is that really a hill worth dying on? I don't think so myself. I swear, man, if this game had fat women with mustaches and knee acne, they would be falling over themselves with praises in response. These people really do want everything to be just as ugly as they are, and when it isn't, they get very angry and disappointed. And like good socialists, they claim superheroes have been used as propaganda, therefore Marvel Rivals is now bad. And they say this, of course, while unironically wearing a Che Guevara shirt, or having his face on a flag in their room, by the way. And how much do you want to bet these types have all kinds of pins with various phrases, flags, and so on either their hats, bags, or jackets? These people don't even know what propaganda is because they've been so warped by the very thing they claim to fight against already. PlayStation Lifestyle also had their article, Marvel Rivals Success Has Players Debating About Concord Again. Well, bless Lifestyle's heart, but it's really not that deep to figure out. Lifestyle has a part of their article called Lessons Sony Can Learn from Concord's Failure and Marvel Rivals' Success. Yeah, it's pretty simple. You just stop making ugly they-them character designs, make people attractive and fit, and stop putting pronoun nonsense on character screens. I'm pretty sure that'll work pretty well. Of course, this won't mean immediate success every time, but at least you'll have a far better fighting chance than whatever the hell this was in Concord. It's quite simple, really. The more you cater to what Eastern devs are making, the better you'll probably do. And then the more you listen to these socialists and whatnot, the worse off you'll always be. I also want to quickly go over Kingdom Come Deliverance here as well, because it kind of ties into all of this too. So TLDR, Kingdom Come 2 is coming out, and it's likely going to do very well. It's a historical RPG, and the people behind it are very based. The creative director posted a screenshot of him comparing Kingdom Come 1's player numbers on Steam against Veilguard, and since then he's been getting attacked constantly. People are yelling at him saying Kingdom Come only has more players because the game is cheaper, yada yada yada, you get the point, as one user pointed out. A genuine way of celebration would have been sharing only your results and saying, wow, didn't expect these numbers, thank you everyone. Instead, you chose to compare it so it makes your happiness fake. Daniel Vavra, who owns the studio behind Kingdom Come, and also directs the games, then said, I grew up in a world where competition is a good thing. Yeah, they didn't like that at all, and then another user would reply. I could say a few things about Kingdom Come Deliverance, but I'm too polite. I will say stupid comparing yourselves to a franchise that's on its 4th title release, and still going this strong despite past failures. We'll see if Kingdom will make it there with the same numbers, but I suggest silence until. Daniel Vavra, like a Chad, would then reply, past failures, LOL. Warhorse, by the way, has had nothing but success, so yeah, what they're saying there, that makes no sense. Another user would try to dunk on Daniel by saying, you're a loser, did you have to cannibalize other studios to survive, or were you just bored? Daniel would reply, yeah, I am a loser, tell me about it, while sharing a photo of himself driving a goddamn Bentley. I think you get the point here, but as per usual, the woke weirdos are mad because Kingdom Come's director decided to stand up for himself. And like he said, competition is a good thing. It breeds excellence, it pushes people to do their best. The only people who are mad that such concepts exist are the ones not actively benefiting from it. This all ties into Rivals 2. Overwatch fans have left it for a while to play it because again, competition is good. It could mean that in the future Blizzard maybe makes their game even better, which in turn will cause Rivals to have to follow suit and one-up them too. And guess who wins in the end of all of this? It's you, of course, because these two games existing, battling it out like they're the Titans in Xenoblade Chronicles, will lead to better products down the line for you to enjoy. If Rivals or any other hero shooter live service game doesn't exist, then what point does Blizzard have to push themselves or better things in the future? If they knew that you'll play it anyway because it's the only thing on the market, they wouldn't do anything. It's wild how people are like this, but it is what it is. Competition is important in every space. YouTube is also highly competitive, which means I gotta make good videos or it's a bust. If there was no competition and I was guaranteed a fixed amount of views and revenue per video, then why bother trying, right? If you knew that you were going to make X amount of money no matter what per video, you would just upload a black screen with the sound of farting in the background because why bother trying, right? But since there's actual incentive to push yourself, that's why things like YouTube and gaming is the way that it is. As you can see, it's pretty clear that almost exclusively whenever someone or something is doing well, the wokies always get mad about it. Because they want everyone to be brought down to their level. They're not happy when something that doesn't align with them does really well. Let them continue to cope and see, but I think that's enough for today. What do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, subscribe, and thanks to my supporters. Now if you don't mind, I'm going to go play some Rivals, and I'll see you in the next one.